This is Head Bustin' Boxing, and we are back in the house to talk about this melee, this mess with this Joshua Ruiz, Pulev, IBF mandatory stuff. And I told you this is not as cut and dry as people are trying to make it. Anyway, let's get into this boxing scene article. Team Pulev to appeal IBF ruling as Ruiz stalled on Joshua rematch. Now this is a very interesting article, very interesting. So let's get into it. It says the latest development, I'm going to skip around some of this. It says the latest development in the planned rematch between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Anthony Joshua has already caused a ripple effect. Concerns remain at large even after Eddie Hearn, Joshua promoter, officially announced a December 7th date for the aforementioned clash due to take place in Diriyah, Saudi Arabia. However long it takes to get sorted out could impact the timeline for when mandatory titles are title defenses are ordered by the various sanctioning bodies. Now, I'm going to skip down a little bit because basically it's talking about the press conference with Eddie Hearn. We don't need none of that. Then it says Ruiz Jr. remains reluctant to travel to Saudi Arabia, where the suggested venue has yet to advance beyond drafted blueprint or architect table. It is understandable why a challenger waiting in the wings will question when his due shot will arrive. Now here's where it gets real interesting. Now this is a quote. It says, "We're concerned about the continued reports that Ruiz has not yet agreed to the rematch." John Wirt, president of Epic Sports, Pulev's primary promoter, told BoxingScene.com, "In all my years in boxing, I don't ever recall seeing a press conference for a fight of this magnitude where the fighters were so conspicuously absent." Now, think about this. He made a hell of a point. Can you tell me one big fight, hell, a small, mediocre fight, where you did not see, if not both, one of the contestants? Because like I said, you can have a representative, but it was nobody there for Andy Ruiz at all. And Anthony Joshua wasn't there. But at least you can justify Joshua not being there because of Eddie Hearn. Then it says the fact is that Joshua and his team forced Ruiz to agree to an immediate rematch clause is in direct violation of IBF Rule 3B, and it is unclear whether such clause is even enforceable by Matchroom. I've been saying this. I said this in like 4 or 5 videos at this point. Truth be told, it is unclear. And look, here's the crazy part. They're saying that about the IBF, but the WBO and the WBA has the same rule. I'm gonna read that back again. It says the fact is that Joshua, and that's different number. It's like for the WBA, I think it's like Rule 325, something like that. Something like 225, something like that, or C25, excuse me. And with the WBO, it's Regulation 18. But anyway, it says the fact is that Joshua and his team forced Ruiz to agree to an immediate rematch clause in direct violation, well, it should say is in direct violation of IBF Rule 3B, and it's unclear whether such clause is even enforceable by Matchroom. The vested interest of the part of Epic Sports stems from a ruling by IBF on Monday, whereas BoxingScene.com previously reported the sanctioning body approved a rematch between Ruiz Jr. and Joshua ahead of a mandatory title defense. 2 conditions applied. However, the rematch must take place by no later than December 7th, the target date, which Eddie Hearn, that's when the fight is supposed to take place. And the winner must provide written consent to face Pulev on or before May 31st, 2020. Any disruptions in staging the rematch would clearly alter those plans. We plan that, once again, this is a quote, we plan to seek clarification on Tuesday IBF order, including whether the winner is required to defend against Pulev as his next bout without any intervening bouts, whether the winner is required to agree in writing with us not to seek another exception for a unification bout or a modification of the general IBF rules, etc. Notes work. In other words, they don't want to hear. See, now this is where it gets ugly for Ruiz. If Ruiz loses, he doesn't get the option that Joshua has in an immediate rematch, because they're going to, like Bob Arum and Team Pulev, they're going to make sure that doesn't happen, because that's pushing them back even further. Or they're going to try to make sure it doesn't happen. Then it says, we also want a deadline by which the fighters must agree to the IBF conditions, particularly since it appears this fight is not made. See, it ain't just us YouTubers that are saying, man, this don't look right. This doesn't look like this fight is actually made. I mean, you got people, you got promoters, managers, people that work in that field that's still scratching their head too, like, hold up. Why are we seeing things the way we're seeing them? This has been weird. But anyway, it says we need to know what direction we're going, since we're looking to have Pulev fight in November if the rematch goes forward for all the belts. Then it says Pulev 27-1, 14 KOs, became the mandatory challenger following the 12th round win over Hughie Fury, etc., etc. Then it says, while Joshua had his problems in the ring, the worst part of Pulev's last fight came well after the final bell, and basically talking about the stuff with Jennifer Sushi and him being suspended. And all right, I'm gonna skip down to this last quote. It says, we plan on filing an appeal as a prophylactic measure to protect Pulev's right while these issues get sorted out. Informed work. I can say this though, Pulev will fight Ruiz in the US, in Mexico, or even in Timbuktu, and Joshua and his handlers are forgetting the most fundamental tenet of boxing, that once you become champion, everything changes. Thank you. I mean, like, for people that's saying Ruiz has no say in this, that sounds crazy. That sounds crazy altogether. And this isn't going to be the end of this, because, as he said, it does not appear that Andy Ruiz, if he did sign something, it didn't seem like he signed something recently. Now, maybe he signed something back in May or whenever Big Baby felt his test or whatever. That might be leading up to this. I don't know. Like I said, I don't have the contract in front of me, and even if I did, it would probably be worded like I would be reading Chinese anyway. But the point is, I do know this, and he made a hell of a point, and I've been saying this all along. According to sanctioning bodies, this fight does not have to take place. Ruiz could have easily said, look, I'm going to defend my title. Let me get my mandatories out of the way. And the sanctioning bodies would have went along with that, because that's what is in their rule books. So clearly Eddie Hearn has some type of favor to even be allowed to pull this off to this point anyway. But it has a time limit. And the longer Ruiz drag this out, the worse it is for Eddie Hearn. Because it's not saying he'll be stripped by the IBF if he doesn't fight by December 7th. No, it's saying they're giving them the December the 7th to have this fight made, done, and over with. That's what they're saying. He could, now the problem with that is Eddie Hearn will try to drag him into court and block him from being able to fight somebody else, which that in turn might lead to him getting stripped. Who knows? But first things first, we got to see if this fight is even going to make it by December the 7th. And Eddie Hearn put himself in a bad predicament just off the fact none of that stuff, like the man said, like Work said, none of that stuff is already ready. You talking about a stadium that has to be built. You talking about training facilities that has to be built. Now this is stuff Eddie Hearn said. He said they're building training facilities for both fighters. So that's something else you got to add to. And that's, to be honest with you, I ain't feeling that. If I'm Andy Ruiz, I wouldn't be feeling that. So that means you're in charge of where my camp is going to be held at and what type of training facilities is going to be there. How do I know I'm going to be getting state-of-the-art equipment? You might be sending me somewhere where I'm getting garbage for training equipment. I mean, you never know. I don't know. But at the end of the day, at this point, I want to see the fight, but it ain't looking good in my opinion. Because you got people trying to step in the way, number one, with Pulev and Bob Arum. You got an unhappy champion who you trying to drag in for a rematch. You got a stadium that's not built, training facilities that's not built, in a country that, I mean, I'm sorry, you know, Saudi Arabia fans, that seems to be unstable from the outside looking in. As far as I'm concerned, this is all bad. But anyway, that's pretty much all I got. This is Head Busting Boxing Fight Doctor. Hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Hit me up in the comment section and let me know, is Pulev and his team just blowing smoke? Now, I'm not saying they can stop the fight. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is this is going against the rules of the IBF, not just the IBF, but the WBA and the WBO. If you look up their bylaws, their rules and regulations, you cannot enforce. In every last one of them, you go find somewhere it's going to say it's not binding, or we don't do immediate rematch clauses, etc., etc. And you will see it roll across the screen throughout the video if you haven't already, because I do the recording before we put the actual video and stuff like that in. So you've probably seen it already. But anyway, this is Head Busting Boxing Fight Doctor. I am out.